Hi everybody, we want to welcome you out here to the Remington Nature Center today. We are going to share with you some of the animals that we have here on site. Some of the favorite animals that we have here at the Nature Center, and that are our reptiles. The first one that we will introduce you to is Harley. Harley is a hognose snake, a western hognose snake to be exact. They do live in Missouri, although they are more common in western states. They have a very cryptic coloration. This coloration helps them to blend in with their habitat, just like camouflage would do. They also mimic another snake that lives here in Missouri that's called the Massasauga rattlesnake. Now we know rattlesnakes are venomous, but Harley here is not venomous, or at least does not possess venom that would hurt a human or make us ill. So this pattern is very much like that Massasauga. So we know that animals often mimic a dangerous animal, or one that we might consider dangerous, as a form of protection. So looking like a rattlesnake, in theory, would give him protection from being bothered by a predator. What also makes Harley a unique snake is his nose. I don't know if Miss Sarah can zoom in on this nose or not, but Harley has an upturned nose. And what that is a modified scale. And that allows him to root around in his habitat. So he's going to live near rivers, near ponds, usually near water sources. And the reason for that is because his favorite food is frogs and toads. So he's going to go where the food's at. So that nose helps him to root around. He's going to root around in that sand or that loose dirt and maybe scare up a toad or a frog to find to eat. He does have another special adaptation, which in the back of his throat, he has a rear fang. And that fang helps him eat those frogs and toads. When a toad feels alarmed or threatened, oftentimes they fill themselves up with air, kind of like a balloon. So that fang in the back is what we kind of call a toad popper, which sounds really gruesome and kind of crazy. But that fang allows him to let the air out of his food so he can swallow it. He also does something else that we think is pretty cool here at the Nature Center, although Harley's probably not going to do it. But if you were to find one in the wild, they will do it. If they feel threatened, they are the opossums of the reptile world. We all know opossums will play dead, so does Harley, or snakes like him. If he feels really threatened, he's going to flip over on his back just like this. He'll lay there for quite some time. His tongue is still moving in and out. He's still sensing his environment. And then if he thinks the danger is gone, he'll flip back over and he'll slither off and go away. So all of these are really great adaptations to help him live in the environments where he's going to be found. And so we're pretty fond of old Mr. Harley here. So we're going to put him away. And so we mentioned about Harley eating something that is much larger than him, and he has that fang that allows him to do that. So how do snakes eat? We know that they don't chew. They don't really have teeth or a jaw that is set up to chew like a mammal does. So what they're going to do is grab their food, and they're going to hold on to that, and then they swallow their food whole. So in theory, if we were a snake and we were to eat like a snake, we would be able to take this beach ball and swallow it whole. No chewing allowed. We're just going to open our mouth. It's going to stretch really far, and we're going to walk that right over our food. So this is a really neat adaptation that they have developed to be able to eat the prey that they eat. We know that snakes eat things 3 or 4 times larger than their head. So this is about 3 or 4 times larger than my head or most human heads would be. So it's a pretty amazing feat that they can do. So the next snake that we're going to meet is another one that is native to Missouri, but it's one that we don't see very often. Kind of like our western hognose Harley, these guys are becoming kind of rare. So we're going to get him out here really quick, and he's a little bit bigger than Harley. So this is our bull snake. Now growing up, we saw bull snakes a lot. Bull snakes were almost in every farm pasture. If you raised hogs back in the day, the old timers will tell you that the bull snakes were around. So they tended to follow the hog farms because they were after food again. So Harley, we know his food. Yeah, he's getting a little frisky here. We know Harley's favorite food is the frogs and toads. The favorite food, or the food of choice for our bull snake, is going to be mice and rats. So with grain being very common on farms, they followed the rats. The rats would go for the grain, the snakes go for the rats that are going for the grain. So the bull snakes are farmers' friends, or if you're a landowner or a gardener, if you deal with seeds or grain at all, these guys are your friends. They are also the large, okay. Her name is Meadowlark, by the way. Meadowlark is going to make herself comfortable here. So Meadowlark or bull snakes, they are considered kind of a grassland species, or again, they're going to be associated with that crop ground.
She's around the chair.
Well, it wouldn't be entertaining if we didn't have this going on, right? Okay, so they are the largest snakes in Missouri. They might reach lengths up to 8 feet. Meadowlark is probably 4.5 feet in length, pushing that 5-foot mark, so she has quite a bit of growing yet to do. So we're not really sure why their numbers are down in Missouri. We do know that they are. We know that they are very hard to find now. We don't see them near as often as we used to. So we're very lucky to have Meadowlark down here at the Nature Center. And if you ever want to see a bull snake up close, this is a great place to come down and see one. Another great adaptation that they have, we talked about Harley playing dead. That's going to help him get rid of predators, or hopefully to scare off a predator, or maybe a predator will lose interest. Miss Meadowlark here is going to hiss really loudly. She fills up an air sac in her throat and she lets that air out. It's a very loud hiss. You can hear it from a long ways away. This warns predators that she's there. Maybe it sounds frightening to a predator. Maybe they're going to leave her alone. Some people say it sounds somewhat like the rattlesnake rattling its tail. So again, we're back to that mimicking a rattlesnake, which a predator might not like that. Okay, so we're gonna put Miss Meadowlark up, and this might take me a second, guys. Okay, maybe we'll just hold on to that. All right. Oh, well, that went much easier than I thought. So now we're gonna transition over to some other reptiles that we have down here at the Nature Center, and that are the turtles. Now, when we talk about reptiles, obviously snakes, and then there's lizards, and then there's the turtles. And so down here at the Nature Center, we have Julius. Julius is a type of turtle that we call a tortoise. Tortoises are almost always land-based, meaning they're going to be found on land. You're not going to see them swimming around in the water. Not typically associated with water, although they do need to drink. Many of them will soak if they can find a shallow place of water to do so. It helps hydrate them. But tortoises are also very long-lived. Julius here might live 60 to 80 years, maybe even more in the right conditions. Many tortoises live 100, 150. There are records close to 200 years. So again, very, very long-lived animals. Very slow-moving animals in most cases. They just kind of take life in stride. So Julius here is about full grown. He's not going to get much larger. But we do know in the world there are some very large tortoises. I'm sure you've heard of the Galapagos tortoises. They are the largest in the world at about 600 to 800 pounds. There's one called the Aldabra tortoise that's from the Seychelles Islands. He might get up to 500 or 600 pounds. Then there's one called the Sulcata tortoise. It's a very common tortoise in the pet trade, and they might get up to 150 to 200 pounds. They are the largest land-based tortoise. Galapagos and Aldabras are island-based tortoises. So there are some very large tortoises out there, guys, but not all of them are. Many of them are on the small side and very manageable, but again, long-lived. So we talk about turtles, so those are our tortoises, but turtles are water-based. We're going to find turtles swimming in rivers, lakes, ponds. Here's an example of a pond turtle. This is probably a little slider or maybe a little painted turtle. Kind of hard to tell by the shell, but this is one that you would find around here in any pond, any lake, out here in the river along the nature center. We have them in the lagoon as you walk up towards the nature center in spring and summer. They're gonna bask along the shoreline or on logs, things like that. They're coming out of the water to bask, to warm up their body, speed up their metabolism a little bit, helps them find food, helps them digest their food. So look for them in the spring when you come out here to visit the nature center. You'll see them along the shoreline out there. Some other turtles that we know about across the world, and this is the big one, guys. This is a green sea turtle. This is the shell. So when we turn that shell around, we can see right up through the middle here, this is where the spine would be. The shell is the turtle. Turtles are not gonna climb out of their shells like we see on the cartoons, kids, I promise you. They are attached to their shell. The shell is made up of living tissue, like your fingernails, so they can feel things. If you were to touch a turtle or tortoise's shell, they can feel it. They can feel those shell scratches that you might do. So they have nerve endings in there. Again, so a very large turtle. Sea turtles, again, fully aquatic, but they do come out when they want to lay eggs. Just like all turtles that are living in the water, they cannot lay eggs in the water. So they're going to come out of the water. They're going to look for an area where they can dig a hole. They're going to lay their eggs, and then they're going to go right back to the water source. In a few months, those eggs are going to hatch, and they're going to immediately head for the nearest water once they've hatched. So again, even if they're aquatic, they still have to come out on land to lay their eggs. Then there is one other type of turtle that lives here in Missouri that's kind of a cross between a turtle and a tortoise, and those are the box turtles. They're called terrapins, is what we call them. Although in other places of the world, they call aquatic pond turtles terrapins. So it's all kind of semantics when it comes to names. But back here on the wall, you're gonna see this is Missouri's state reptile, the three-toed box turtle. That is our terrapin, or the ones that we refer to as a terrapin. They will swim. They will get into a lake. They will get into a pond. We've heard reports of them crossing small rivers. So they do swim. They love to soak in water. They drink a lot of water. But they're going to be found on land as well. You're going to see them out roaming around looking for food. They are omnivores. So when we talk about omnivores, these are animals that are going to eat meat. They will eat carrion, which is something dead that maybe they have found laying along the side of the road or out in the forest somewhere. They're going to eat worms, other insects, and then they're going to eat a lot of plant life, mushrooms, things like that. Again, with our tortoises usually are vegetarians, but there are exceptions. We do have tortoises that like meat as well. And then our sea turtles are, again, omnivores, but they're going to eat, we know that they love jellyfish, right? Not sure, what is a jellyfish anyway, right? Okay, so that's about all I have for our reptiles. We do want to invite you to come down here to the Nature Center. We have a big surprise coming in a few weeks. We're going to be hinting on that at Facebook, so keep an eye on our Facebook page. But I will tell you it has to do with reptiles. And so we do encourage you to come down, visit the reptiles, visit the snakes, and learn a little bit more in person. So thanks again, guys.